Hi everyone. So what I want to talk about today is what is the optimal director salary for the 25-26 tax year. So if you run your own business, you could well be taking a combination of salary and dividends to get paid to be tax efficient. And the numbers are going to change because quite recently, Rachel Reeves had her first budget. And what she did was she changed the thresholds at which you start paying employers national insurance, and she changed the rate of employers national insurance. So what I want to talk about today is what the right director salary looks like for you. And I'm just going to keep it really brief because you can always contact me if you want to understand anything more specific to your situation. So there's two scenarios really. Firstly, if your only source of income is your limited company and you've got nothing else going on, then that means you will quite likely have a different director salary to if you have other sources of income like investments and other things going on financially. So I'm going to talk about the first scenario. Well, the first scenario, the optimal director salary is £12,570 a year. That's known as your full personal allowance, and that's the amount where you won't pay any income tax on it and you won't pay any employees national insurance. But the annoying thing about this is you may pay employers national insurance because if you don't have access to something called the employment allowance, which is the £10,000, or I think it's 10,500 now, that you get written off your employer's national insurance bill, then you will have to pay employers national insurance on that salary. And anything between 5,000 and 12,570 will be taxed at 15% in terms of employers national insurance. So the reason why 12,570 is still the optimal director's salary in that situation is because even though you're going to pay that 15% employers national insurance on it, on a large part of it, you're actually going to save corporation tax, and your corporation tax rate might be between 19 and 25%. So it's better to pay 15% to save up to 25%. So that's why it will still make sense to take the full personal allowance next year. So the second scenario, by the way, what I would say though is if you have other people involved in your business, then you will qualify for the employment allowance, although they may have used it up on their own salaries, so you may not have any left. But that's how the employment allowance works. But one thing to think about, just as tax planning point, if you got family members involved in the business who might not be taking a salary, then definitely make sure they are taking a salary so you yourself can qualify for the employment allowance. So the second scenario is where you've got other sources of income. And the idea, if you've got other sources of income, is use those sources of income to use up your personal allowance, and then anything that is left of your personal allowance between what those sources used and your 12,570 full personal allowance, then take that as a salary. The caveat here is you may want to at least take what is known as the lower earnings limit of about £6,000 a year, because that will trigger your state pension credit, which means you'll get that credit for your state pension. So that's quite useful, because if you're not getting that state pension credit any other way, like for example, you don't have any child benefit, then sometimes taking a little bit more salary than you need to just to get trigger that credit, even though you don't have to pay any national insurance on it at that point, or you might not have to, or you might just pay a small amount of employers' national insurance. It's actually worth doing because the state pension credit is quite valuable. So the first scenario, nice and easy. If you've got no other source of income, just take the full personal allowance. Just it's painful paying the employer's national insurance, but if you've got to do it, it's still better off than paying the corporation tax. And then the second scenario, figure out what's left over of your personal allowance and only take that unless you want to top it up a bit more to trigger that state pension credit. So if you've got any questions like that, well, you may well have questions, then definitely just get in touch with me. Go to our website. There's loads of ways to contact me there, and I'll see